And now, ladies and gentlemen, we're back in business with a community showdown between the Wood Elves, who shall be led by Dactyr, facing off against the Dwarves, who shall be led by Fistek. It's going to be Orion facing off against Ungram. Certainly a pretty precarious duel for old Orion there. I'm pretty sure he would actually lose to Ungram head-to-head if they just pretty much stood and went fisticuffs. But again, Orion's much faster. He has range potential, has bombardment, all sorts of crazy stuff. So not really the best comparison. Now, for this Wood Elf army, there have been many theories about how the Wood Elves can approach the Dowie here in this DLC. One of the more common ones, of course, is using the Great Stag Knights, right? Pretty self-explanatory, silver shields, 90 speed, great armor-piercing values, can really hit and run and do some serious damage against the Dowie. However, this is kind of more of an old-school approach here. His entire army is going to be the Wildwood Rangers, who are pretty much like just a standard great weapon unit now for the Wood Elves. They've gone through a couple iterations. I remember, I think back in the day they used to have like bonus first large, but now they're basically just a great weapon unit. And you know, if they're able to get into combat with like a Longbeard or a Dwarf Warrior, they will perform quite well. Their 48 melee attack is really nothing to sneeze at. So aside from that, the other unit you mix in quite often are the War Dancers. War Dancers are pretty decent in sustained combat. They do lack AP, but where they're really functional in this matchup is actually fighting Slayers. They can kill miners really quick. I'm pretty sure they defeat Dwarf Warriors, and of course they can really do quite well against Slayers. So that's going to be it mainly. It's just like Eternal Guard, War Dancers, and a bunch of Wildwood Rangers. It's going to be Orion as well, the Master of the Wild Hunt. Kind of a cool dual purpose for him is the fact that he does have the giant javelins to throw up at the gyrocopters, which is quite funny. Aside from that, in the forest, the new unit he's going to be including in his build here is going to be the Glade Riders with Spears. And this is something that's quite huge in this matchup. Historically, you would have to invest, let's say, Wild Riders for 1100 gold, and it would really take away from your infantry. But now you can just get a cheaper, more annoying Cav Corps and invest more in your heavy hitters like the big old Wildwood Rangers here. So that's going to be it for the Wood Elf army. Beastcaster as well to summon Manticores and Amber Spirit. And now for the Dwarves, it's going to be a front battle line of Dwarf Warriors as well as more Dwarf Warriors into the sunset. Miners with blasting charges. It looks like it's going to be quad rangers with a master engineer with the fiery ring of Thori for a nice little AoE roast of the Wood Elves, Ungram Iron Fist, and a cannon. Yeah, it looks like it's going to be a cannon here in the back with some Slayers defending it and more Slayers back here as well. Should be quite a bit of fun. Always a good matchup. I still think the matchup overall, despite many of the videos you guys have been seeing on YouTube and various people's channels showing the Wood Elves win. I think a lot of obviously content creators want to show that because it's something that didn't happen often before, and it's kind of has a bit of a sensational kind of element about it. Granted, in reality, I still think the matchup is a little bit Dwarf favored. Granted, not by much. I think the Wood Elves have really closed the gap with some of their new tools, but I still think the Dowie do have the advantage in this matchup. But just my 2 cents. So Orion here taking some shots from the Master Engineer. Pretty cool inclusion here by Fistek. Just a perpetual sniper, right? Can just kind of sit there and poke. If the Sisters of Twilight are sitting above your army, he could just sit there and cackle and do his thing. And also the Fiery Ring of Thori is like a tech piece against Rush. I think that's quite cool. I mean, the Fiery Ring should do some huge damage against the War Dancers here, and Dwarves, of course, don't need to worry about bringing casters. So now, I would imagine that the Dwarves would probably want to switch their focus fire onto the Wildwood Rangers with all of their archers, and it looks like they're still shooting at Orion, which I think is a little bit of a misplay there. Longbeards have engaged in the front against the War Dancers. Longbeards will win that fight in a pretty one-sided manner. Definitely should be fine there. But now the Wildwood Rangers have been switched on here, and that's definitely the appropriate target. The back line is a little bit open here. Nice Hounds of Orion right there, doing some serious damage against those Rangers. A little bit of an aggressive attempt here by the Glade Singers. I don't know if it's that important to shut them down. And now those Glade Riders with Spears are going to pay the Troll Toll against the Slayers. But, you know, on that same note, pushing in there, sacrificing some of the Glade Riders here does also open up pressure from the other side, right? Because now those Slayers are busy. You can come right down the middle and cause some serious disruption. So War Dancer's not doing badly to the Longbeards, actually. A little bit better than I expected. And here, blasting charges are really wrecking many of the Wildwood Rangers. But you can see the engagements where the Wildwood Rangers don't get blasted initially. They really crush the Dwarf Warriors and the Miners and the basic infantry here of the Dowie. Eagle in the back is going to be landing on top of the Rangers. As far as the Dwarves go here, Ungram Iron Fist looks like he's eyeing that Spell Singer of Beasts. He's a little bit hungry here, but switching over to the Great Eagle isn't a bad play. Granted, it is a summon, so it's not going to be like huge value city, but it will free up your archers a little bit quicker. In the meantime, Fistek doing a good job with the Slayers here in the back, kind of forcing back the harassing elements of this Wood Elf army. The Glade Riders here are more or less offline. But now there's more Glade Riders on the other side, and the infantry fight isn't going super well for the Dwarves. Miners here are holding their own, Longbeards winning their respective fight, but with Orion rear charging you and getting some serious punishment. That's quite scary indeed. Also, Orion did get some buffs. He has 20% physical resist base now, so on top of his 44% ward save, he can go up to 66% against most Dowie. That's why I think that Gromberndal probably is a really solid pick here, just because he does magic damage and, of course, has slows. But now the Wood Elves had a much wider army here, and you can see the Wildwood Rangers and many of these other assets are going to be screaming into the back line here, and these Rangers are going to get cut to pieces, and the Wildwood Rangers should be able to make mincemeat of these Rangers pretty quick here. On the backside, though, the Dwarven Cannon still functional. There are some Wildwood Rangers and War Dancers really cramping this army, and that's really kind of been the theme of this game so far. The Wood Elves, with their width, not investing in Great Stag Knights, right? So the Great Stag Knights are something that will really inhibit the width of your army, but here, you know, he's really able to just pressure from all angles. But, ooh, a nice catch in the middle from the Dwarves. The mighty Dwarf Lord, Ungrim Ironfist, going balls deep and chopping the Spellsinger beast up, and she's at -60. She might just straight up shatter here. Looks like the leadership stabilizing, and, you know, honestly, Orion does not want to stay here. He's losing this fight quite handedly. Yeah, unit winning decisively. The tooltip sure is right there, and Orion takes a couple huge blows. Not enough to trigger his healing yet, but really Ungrim showing his teeth, and he's definitely a pretty damn scary anti-large duelist, especially for how much he costs. Ungrim is really, really cheap compared to Grombrindle, so something to think about. Perhaps he is better in some matchups. Anyways here, Gyrocopters with the Brimstone guns going after Orion. This is where it's going to become extremely difficult to kill him. Hounds of Gibson going down once more, able to tear through a couple Slayers there, but the Wildwood Rangers are getting quite beat up. This Great Eagle, I believe, is a summon, which will be disappearing soon. And the Dwarves definitely looking a little bit thin on the ground. We have some Dwarf Warriors here who are buckling, a lot of Dwarves who are running. Here there's some Longbeards, and yeah, the Slayers are really kind of the last bastion here of the Wood Elf force, but, you know, Fistek does have the advantage up in the sky. He's got the 2 Gyrocopters with the Brimstone guns. I don't know about his bombing status, but right now we're probably going to see one. Let's see. No, we didn't quite see it. Oh, that wasn't bad. Kind of hit the Dwarves a little bit, too, on the front. But yeah, no, he's still got the Flyers and still has ample ammunition. And Orion might pay the Troll Toll here, guys. Holy shit, he's at 538. This bad boy is going to be hard to kill. Cloak of Bishop, currently sitting at 66% ward save with his combined saves. That is a massive amount of damage reduction, especially when you factor in the healing. And the fact that Dactyr is doing a really good job hiding in the trees here, which means that many of the big shots from the Brimstone guns are going to be getting obstructed. But I really like the inclusion of the Master Engineer. I think that's kind of a cool pick here. Master Engineer probably has been putting a ton of damage here onto Orion over the course of the game. It's really hard to actually juke his shots. Now, Ungrim is surrounded by these Great Weapon units, so Wildwood Ranger is really chopping him down. You can see he's taking a bunch of work, but Wildwood Rangers themselves are also quite squishy. 40 armor, 36 melee defense. They can die really quickly to a stiff breeze here, and you can see that the Dwarves are able to get some infantry in there and rally them with the Dwarf Warriors and push them back, and Ungrim might be able to actually kill here. Get the Spellsinger and Beast and get rid of those Amber Spears. Slayers, unfortunately for Fistek here, are being caught by the War Dancers. So the War Dancers coming in, going to be swarming, and these mighty Dwarf Warriors, or these mighty Slayers, certainly going to be meeting their end. War Dancers are designed to kill Slayers. Great DPS, bonus for infantry against light armor, and the Slayers are being cut to pieces. Just heavily outnumbered, of course. Not a fair engagement. You know, always hard to see my fellow Dawi fall. But that's what the Slayers want. It's what they signed up for, man. Can't blame them. Really, really close game here. Orion has healed up to 900 HP, so he'll probably get up just over 1,000, around 1,100 before his healing stops. Really, really powerful stuff. Ooh, nice fiery ring of Thori right there on the Master Engineer. Able to cut through the War Dancers. Yeah, get some decent work. And a couple Slayers still fighting. Looks like 8 Slayers against 19 War Dancers. Slayers might be able to make something of that. We'll see. And currently, Ungrim, I think, is trying to chase the Wildwood Rangers off the battlefield, which is definitely smart. That's still a lot of stopping power with 31 models. So if you can actually make sure and escort them off the battlefield, that is quite an important play. Now here we have more Wildwood Rangers engaging against Dwarf Warriors. Wildwood Rangers will certainly win that, but the Dwarf Warriors should be able to put a decent dent in them. And yeah, the fact that some Rangers have come back is certainly not insignificant. So honestly, it's balance of power is favoring the Dawi a little bit here, but I feel like with Orion, that's the thing. Like, there's many games where you feel like you're losing, but the fact that Orion is such a raid boss really, really can change the dynamic of the game here. So Ungrim is doing his work here. He's chopping through these Eternal Guard, a true hero of the Dawi people. As far as his value accrued so far, let's go ahead and zoom in here. He's got one guy just getting tossed about. 1,000 gold, not bad. He only costs like 1,300, so he's more or less almost paid for himself. The Master Engineer, a little bit surrounded, which is unfortunate, but a nice bombing run here by the Dwarves. He's able to punish those War Dancers. And now we do have some Longbeards making their way back in, and it looks like some more Dwarf Warriors moving in as well. Yeah, the Azrai have emerged from the forest. Orion has healed. The Cloak of Isha has protected him this day. He's going to be moving in for his final battle, man. Master Engineer being alive is actually quite important for the Dwarves, and I think warrants the charge here from the Gyrocopter with the Brimstone gun. Master Engineer will break. Man, some of the nearby Dwarves do shatter as well. Pretty unfortunate stuff. Up on the high ground, Glade Riders with Spears, just kind of cycle charging Dwarf Warriors. Definitely not a bad idea. Gyrocopter is really good ammunition conservation here from Fistek too. He's got 2 of those bad boys, so, you know, that's potentially enough. Probably not to kill Orion, but to get him very low and maybe butter him up for a final duel with Ungrim. So, that'd actually be an interesting test to see who just straight up wins in that fight. I'm pretty sure Ungrim will, like, massacre him if they just stand and fight. Again, Orion has cycle charging. He has many ways to kind of run away and heal, and provides a lot more battlefield control than a character like Ungrim does. But this is a first pick here from Dactyr, a first really, really solid pick that starts to pull the game back for him. You can see the bounce power kind of creeping back towards the middle. Orion still actually has a couple spears, which is hilarious. It looks like he just used his last one right there. And currently Dactyr is going to be hiding in the trees with Orion while the rest of his army advances towards Ungrim. Yeah, basically you just want to surround Ungrim with chaff and then cycle charge him with Orion. That's going to be the breadwinning play. In the distance, more Glade Riders with spears have come back from their rally. Master Engineer is done for. That's a huge catch. I think if the Master Engineer had survived and unified with Ungrim, I don't think the Wood Elves would have had a chance. I think this game would have been probably 100% over. But the fact that he was nuked and isolated is really allowing Dactyr to potentially get back in this game as the bounce power does creep. So we'll do a little bit of fast forwarding as the armies do kind of engage with one another. Eternal Guard fighting the Dwarf Warriors. Eternal Guard do have deceivingly good AP values though, so they can definitely hurt them. And here are the War Dancers with the rear charge. Very, very good play. You want to kill the support. Ungrim, save him for last. Ungrim's one of those characters, much like Orion, that you pretty much always want to save for last, unless you really have some super fortunate engagement. Now here, the War Dancers though, oh look at that, the Shadow's Coil. Giving them more melee defense certainly will help them last a little bit longer than Ungrim. But the charges coming in, the Brimstone Guns, will probably break those War Dancers pretty easily. But yeah, look at this, man. 30 Wildwood Rangers. Those guys are going to hurt pretty bad, too. Man, this is an insane game. And this was actually a round 1 game in my most recent ECL preseason qualifier. So it was a big tournament for people to kind of practice the new stuff. And this was a round 1 game between Dactyr and Fistek in a best of 3, which is awesome. So Ungrim here, doing his best, fighting the good fight, but fully surrounded by Eternal Guard now. I think this is looking a little bit grim bones for Ungrim here. He's going to have to get some really good gyrocopter-like breaks. And if he had a bombing run too right now, I feel like it's always worth it. I never do it myself, but I always feel like it's worth it to save like a 1 bomb for the late game here. And here comes Orion, the master of the Wild Hunt. Ungrim meets him head on. 1,000 HP on Orion. Man, Ungrim gets him good. 721. The Dwarf Lord just going crazy. He's still at 700. Is Ungrim going to get him again? It looks like Ungrim might have hit some of the infantry nearby rather than Orion. Orion trying to throw some spears at Ungrim, but he gets hit in the face again. And even with that 66% ward save right now, he's still taking quite a bit of damage. And here's the thing. This is where Grombrindle probably would have killed Orion, because the magic damage would have circumvented that 20%. Also, you have the slow. You might have to sacrifice like 1 unit in your army here and there, but I really think that Grombrindle is just objectively a better pick. Orion's at 427. Charging in once again. Gyrocopters getting down and dirty as well. Gyrocopters can be used to potentially rear charge and break some of these assets here. Definitely not Orion. And basically, Ungrim is just trying to meet Orion every chance he gets. Oh my god, 371 HP. He's so freaking low. Ungrim gets staggered, but Gyrocopter's coming in the back, trying to pin in Orion. A very, very good play here by the Dawi. This is just a nail-biter of a game. 235, 239. Is Ungrim going to get him? Ungrim, I think, has more HP. 135, 143, 151, 23 HP. Holy shit. That would have been the game 100% if Orion had probably died. Ungrim probably would have been able to hold this with proper cycle charging, but now Orion is free and he's healing. Just let Ungrim get grinded down probably here by the War Dancers is the play. See, that's the thing. Grombrindle would have killed him there, but also pre-DLC Orion would have died there because he wouldn't have had that extra 20% mitigation. And obviously, that was more than enough to get that HP down. So one of the Gyrocopters has fallen. Currently, Ungrim is at 391. Orion being very, very careful here, which is smart. Ungrim trying to wade through the troops to actually get to him, but I think just standing and fighting and waiting for the charge to come in from Orion is probably the play. Gyrocopters moving in there. Orion just hooving about, and here comes the Glade Riders with the spears. Pushing in, getting some solid work in. And Ungrim looks like he's probably going to be down for the count. I don't think he's going to be able to hold. Ungrim has fallen. Gyrocopters will follow in suit. Very well played between those two gentlemen. That was a great game. Very different Wood Elf build than what I'm used to seeing with the Great Stag Knights. But that's the thing. I think Fistek was probably more prepared for Great Stag Knights. He had the 2 Gyrocopters with Brimstones to blast them. He had the cannons, and really did seem like kind of prepared for Stag Knights. And then you come with something like this that's wide, unorthodox, and it works. It was a close game though. Holy shit, man! Just a couple little things, the game would have gone either way. But very well played to Dactyr and Fistek. That was a really, really fun game. And it was part of their best of 3. And yeah, it was great. I think in the end, Dactyr ended up winning the best of 3. But in this tournament also, everyone's experimenting with new stuff and trying things out. It was very good practice tournament. So very well played to Dactyr and Fistek. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this one. I certainly did. As far as value accrued, let's give you guys a look. 1,000, 500, 6, 5. Yeah, they did pretty good considering it was dwarves. 1,900 though on these War Dancers. Holy shit. 400 and then 1,000. Seems like the War Dancers might even perform better than Wildwood Rangers, which is strange. Orion, 1,400. Ungrim, I would imagine, did really well. 1,800 on him. Master Engineer, 1,600. Gyrocopters did pretty good as well. And the Slayers obviously generally do okay. So yeah, it's a really good game. And on that note, guys, we'll see you on the other side. You guys take care and stay safe in this accursed year. Cheers, my friends.